What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Gaming with Geeks for the first official Gaming with Geeks podcast. Yet to be appropriately titled, but this will be a good placeholder for now. We got a couple members of the team here to give you a couple different perspectives on some recent news and relevant stuff going on in the gaming world. And we are happy to do it and happy to be here. Schnick asks, will Ryan be raging? I'm sure we'll find something that's usually not a problem. But we got a couple people with us today. Mark the Cyborg. You know him. Hello. You love him. What's going on, Mark?
Not a whole lot. Just working on next week's video, which might be another review. We'll see.
Perfect. And then we've also got, he's not wearing his beanie today, but Tim Pool has graced us with his presence. Oh, wait, that's not Tim Pool. That's Lethal Lightning. What's going on, Lethal?
Various American politic topics.
Oh, that sounds rough.
Civil War II, Electric Boogaloo.
That's right. And then we also have someone you might know who is a geek and a gamer himself. That's why he named his company that. Jeremy Griggs of Geeks and Gamers. How are you doing?
Did you just dox me? Did you just dox me as my last name? How am I going to survive now with all of the toxic men that are constantly raping every woman that walks the street? So we're not monetized, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so.
We never will be, clearly.
Happy to be here. All right, I'll slow down on the toxicity, but yeah, happy to be here. So I've been told that I can't talk Nintendo, so it's going to be a pretty boring podcast.
Yeah, we did set the stage. We said that this is a gaming podcast. We're not going to be talking about Animal Crossing, which is a game for women and children. No, we're not going to be talking about that today, even though literally every woman and child in the world has bought it. But if you are into Animal Crossing, maybe you'll see some videos on the channel soon about it. So look forward to that.
Animal Crossing is awesome. So
there we go. An F in the chat from Miss Darth Barbie. I'm not sure why.
You know why. You know exactly why.
Has something happened to Baby Yoda?
No, talking bad about Animal Crossing. So
that's all right. That's all right. But we do have a couple things that we're going to talk about. What we're trying to do is get this podcast up and running. That's just talking about stuff that happened over the past week. Whether it's going to stick to Sunday, where it's going to go from here, we're not sure. But we decided just to go ahead and fucking do it. But the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about today was Final Fantasy VII, which obviously with everything going on with the quarantine, with everybody on lockdown, one of the things that people have been doing more of is gaming. And if you own a PS4, probably the most hot thing out right now is Final Fantasy VII. You see tons of people streaming it, tons of people playing it. A lot of people want to stay away from it for spoilers because they're excited to play it. But Final Fantasy VII, guys, according to a couple reports, now these numbers are not officially official, but they're pretty reliable. Final Fantasy VII Remake, likely the third biggest PS4 exclusive launch ever. And that's pretty exclusive club when you consider, one, how many consoles the PS4 has sold and some of the games they've had to go along with it. Now, 2.3 million players at launch. That puts it right behind God of War at 2.4 and Marvel Spider-Man at 3 million. Now, I know Mark hasn't had a chance to play it yet because he refuses to get it for PS4. He's going to wait a whole year for that PS4.
I did play the demo. And I beat the boss, unlike most gaming journalists.
That is PC gamer elitist all day. I mean, he's going to wait a year.
I honestly, I would have bought it if it ran at 60 frames a second. I don't want to deal with 30.
Yeah, it's been really a struggle for me playing through it at 30. It's hard on my eyes. I don't know if I'll be able to do it much longer, but I'm somehow struggling through it. First world problems. 30
hate mongering verbal terrorists of the toxic brood. Here we go. Mark starting already.
Oh, buckle up! It's happening.
That's really what this is all about. This entire podcast is just It's just because Mark wants to talk PC gaming.
I will say this though, I'm not necessarily just waiting for a PC version. I want to either play it on PC or PS5 because if it runs at 60 frames a second on PS5, I'll play it there.
This is exactly why he didn't buy,
go.
and this is why he didn't buy Animal Crossing, only for the frames. So
even X-Ray Girl didn't buy Animal Crossing, and like she has a brand new Switch. And was like, what game should I get? And she ended up getting Final Fantasy 8 and 7, like the original ones.
Yeah, as far as Final Fantasy 7, I mean, I'm not surprised at these numbers. I'm not surprised. I mean, this is one of the most iconic games of all time, and the reviews, are phenomenal. People are loving it, even when you across the board, critics, fans, everybody is loving it. I haven't played it yet, but it's not surprising at all, and it's pretty cool. I want to see more remakes. I want to see more games, from the past continue to be updated. I think that's very important. I was always happy to see games like the original Resident Evil, updated and remastered. And I want to see more games like this. So the fact that this Final Fantasy VII has been so successful points to the fact that we're going to probably get more and more remakes. So that's a good sign as far as I'm concerned.
I thought it was going to be number one, honestly. I honestly thought this was going to beat Spider-Man.
I mean, that's a pretty big number, with that Spider-Man game did massive numbers. And obviously God of War is PlayStation's, Mario or Master Chief, you know what I mean? So, but do we don't have the official or these estimates that we have? Is that what you said, Ryan?
Yeah, so these are estimates based on the number of players they had tracking. So they don't have official like games sold numbers. If you look at, I think it's the GamStat. I'll check it. What's another tab? Here. That's their estimate according to GamStat. 2.3 million players after. Now, this is obviously that first, probably when Australia and Europe got it early, those first couple days, and then when everyone in America was able to get it. But, one of the things that I think could be factoring into that, Lethal, one, I think that Spider-Man reaches more normies than Final Fantasy does. But
Final Fantasy VII is like the mainstream, almost normie Final Fantasy game, and it's like considered the most popular one, even though it's not really considered the best one. But it's got everything going around it. It's got all the nostalgia and everything. I really thought this was going to pull number one. I mean, number 3 is pretty fucking good, but I did think this was going to beat Spider-Man. But you could argue that Spider-Man had like MCU pull behind it as well.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, you look at Spider-Man. I mean, every movie Spider-Man's been in, good or bad, has done I think the lowest 800 million. You know what I mean? I mean, even Spider-Man 3, the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I mean, all of them just do bank at the box office. Spider-Man might be the most marketable superhero without, like obviously Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. is big deal, but like Batman and Spider-Man are the two biggest. But Spider-Man is more like, if you look at the Batman Arkham games, while those are some of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion, at least the first two, they didn't have that, like they had that dark brooding feel, you know what I mean? Whereas the Spider-Man game had that, effect to appeal to hardcore comic fans, the MCU fans, and just the people that see, a Spider-Man game where I can just, fly around on my web, in New York. So I think Spider-Man had way too much going for it. So that's
really good word of mouth too. Like this Spider-Man PS4 game is probably one of the best written Spider-Man stories outside of a comic book ever, like including the Raimi movies that I love. Like it was very, very good. The only real downside that anyone really has about it is a lot of people really didn't like the stealth segments where you play as Miles and Mary Jane. But other than that, it's like pretty much the perfect Spider-Man game.
We were talking about this before. Any time you have to play as a woman, that's a download for me in a game.
I just played through 2 JRPGs where there's a female main protagonist, and they were both absolutely fantastic. Trails in the Sky. I recommend everyone play them.
Mark didn't. Mark didn't get the jokes.
No, I got the joke. I thought I would simp a bit for the female protagonist of the world.
But I also think that the fact that this is all going down with the quarantine and everything, I think it's kind of tough to judge because I think a lot more people are playing, but there's also a lot of people who haven't actually been able to get their hands on physical copies yet because their stores are closed and they don't want to buy it on. I broke down and I got it digitally, which I almost never do. Because I don't like buying games digitally because I like to be able to sell them on eBay or whatever. I don't like to take them back to GameStop for a fucking penny. I like to be able to sell them on eBay for, actually get some money back. So who knows exactly how much that's affecting everything. Now, Lethal, of everybody here, you're the one who's played the most of this game. What's your overall feedback about it? There's a lot of people complaining and bitching that it's not really a remake because so much story elements have changed. What's your overall feelings on Final Fantasy VII?
Well, I really like it. I really, really like it. If you're a diehard Final Fantasy VII extremist, you're gonna have some issues with it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the argument remake versus remaster. And as a remake, I think it is a remake because it is a retelling, a reimagining, whereas a remaster would be straight up, just redone with a fresh coat of paint. There is some story changes I don't particularly like. I haven't finished it yet. I know I got the game 10 days early and I still haven't finished it. There is definitely some changes I don't like. And I'm not the biggest fan of the game of Final Fantasy VII overall. I like it, but I'm not one of those over the top people about it. But I reckon it's the best game of the year so far, even though it's not the full game. That might take away from it as well because they've basically just taken the first section of the game, the whole Midgar section, and made a whole game out of that. So I don't know where this ends. So I don't know how it's going to transition going into part 2, and we don't know how many parts there are going to be. And with the PlayStation 5 coming out, is this game going to be totally redundant in a month or two?
Well, how much of it has been changed? And I know you can't, give me a scientific number per se, but 20%, in your estimation, how much of it has been changed? Is it an overhaul completely, or have they just taken have they changed a lot?
It's a reimagining.
Yeah.
Okay.
What the line that I have heard that made the most sense to me is that especially the ending, which I have not played the game, so don't worry about spoilers coming from me because I don't know. But apparently the ending of this part puts it into like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek territory level, like alternate timeline, alternate universe. This is not the same Final Fantasy VII story as
doesn't surprise me because it's Tetsuya Nomura
Okay, so I've never been the biggest Final Fantasy person. So, from my perspective, looking out, why would they name this Final Fantasy VII why wouldn't they just call it Final Fantasy something else?
7 they would do for the branding alone. My biggest question is that if they did make that many changes is why put the word remake in the title?
Right,
because it is a remake. It's not a remaster.
It is. But if it's a totally different story, is it a remake or is it like a reimagining? Is it a total reworking?
It's got the same characters. It's got the same overall basic plot. I think remake is appropriate.
Okay, fair enough. You know more about the game than I do firsthand, so I'll take your word for that one.
Well, this game was released in 95 or 9. When was it released originally? In the 90s for sure.
1997. No, it's 97.
Yeah. So the idea of trying to tell that same it was such a limited way you could tell a story as compared to now. I feel like it's very small, and you can even see, like Lethal said, this is only the first part of this game. They're going to sell you another part of this game next year. What do you think, Lethal? How often are they going to come out with these DLCs?
That's very hard to say. Are they going to go full steam ahead to keep it going? Because hype does die down eventually. I don't know. I really, really don't know. They've been kind of closed lip on that type of stuff. I don't want to wait longer than a year, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. Maybe, but the thing to me that's weird about this game is that it's releasing and with plans to continue on releasing, but it's releasing on this generation consoles. So, are they going to, like Mark said, is it going to be available on PS5 at launch? There's so many things and so many ways we can go about that we just don't know with Final Fantasy VII.
I think a lot of it comes down to we don't know about the PlayStation 5 as well. Like, is this one of those games that I can just chuck in a PlayStation 5 and it's just going to upscale it straight away? And
that would be my hope.
I would imagine that's what's going to happen.
I mean, Sony has been a bit cagey about that, though. Like, they've said, apparently there's 100 of the most popular PlayStation 4 games will be running in an enhanced form on PS5. That kind of got misconstrued as them saying only 100 of the biggest games are going to be backwards compatible at all. And apparently that's not the case, but Sony's also not been clear about how backwards compatibility on between PS4 and PS5 is being handled and what the support is going to be like. So the short answer now is we don't exactly know. The one thing that I can say is that CD Projekt Red has announced for sure that Xbox Series X purchasers who own Cyberpunk on Xbox One will get upgraded to the Xbox Series X version for free. But apparently they have yet to work out that deal for Sony between PS4 and PS5.
Well, I would imagine that this would be it, especially if it was in, the top 3 of the entire generation.
Yeah, I think Sony would be crazy to make people pay a full sticker price on this one again if they want people continuing to buy the series as it comes out on PS5. But I mean, like right now, they just haven't said anything, so we don't know.
And could this be one of those things as well where, like, because this was the first one they made, that going forward, they've already got a lot of assets and stuff they can use to streamline the process a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And they apparently the team, I guess, also has much more experience with the Unreal Engine, which is where they're building it.
Mm-hmm. Highlight Drunk 3PS comment about Mark.
When Mark talks, it sounds like this is my brain.
Okay, look, I've never said clearly that I'm not autistic. I don't know that I am. I just also don't know that I'm not. But often in my brain, it's like what's the Russell Crowe movie? Crap.
Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, Beautiful Mind. I see the numbers and symbols and stuff.
Learn Master Race speak, Drunk. I'll teach you.
Well, I mean, you go back to when Drunk first came in. What's going on? Give me a wrench. Oh, never mind. You already had a wrench.
I didn't mention a single thing about PC in that diatribe. Not once. I was talking about PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X. If I threw Switch in there, I would be talking about everything except for the PC.
Woo, that was good. That was good. Yeah, but I am, it's interesting that this game has been so well received. If they've changed a lot of the story, so much of the story, and they've made it, titled it Final Fantasy VII. I know that says remake on it, but you're really banking off of that, off of that big fan base and the iconicness of Final Fantasy VII. So changing it and so much and still being so well received, that's a pretty big testament to the game, I would think. So.
It's also because as of yet in my playthrough, it hasn't Jake Skywalkered any of the characters. Like, you still got, okay, that's Cloud. It's just a little bit different. You know what I mean? You go, okay, clearly that's Tifa. They haven't really screwed over any of the characters yet.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe this ending's totally out there. But Tetsuya Nomura, man, he's the guy that did Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is my favorite thing of all time. So for him to just go other dimensions and time travel, totally within the realm of possibility.
Okay, I just looked it up, and the space between games for Final Fantasy XIII's trilogy was 2 years a game. It was 2009, 2011, 2013. So it's probably safe to say we're looking at a similar timeline for Final Fantasy VII.
I would be shocked if it was that far.
I was the only person buying those games. I'm the only person in the world that likes that trilogy.
Yeah, I've played almost every Final Fantasy game from like 4 forward, but I've not touched a 13 game. So.
But at the end of the day, it's impossible to like look at it and play it and not understand. Like, it's an incredibly well-made game. So even if they do have a lot of changes, it still draws a lot of people in because of how it looks and how it plays. So. But it's obviously been pretty well selling, 2.3 million, the third biggest release on the PlayStation 4. Now, we talked a little bit about Spider-Man PS4 and how that sold 3 million at launch. We've heard a lot of rumors going on, a lot of leaks about a potential Spider-Man PS5, which no matter what you think about which machine is going to be better, it kind of looks like it's going to be the Xbox Series X right now. PS4 is still going to have the best exclusives and the best software to play, at least in my opinion. Lethal, you kind of headed this up. You did a video on the channel the other day. Tell us a little bit about these Spider-Man PS5 leaks.
Well, it all came from, there was a Zoom call between some Insomniac developers, and this person claimed that to have one of these people was a friend, and was getting some notes from this person. And they were talking about how the game is going to be set during winter, and that's something we've heard repeatedly, so I'm pretty confident this game will be set during winter. And they're talking a lot about dynamic weather effects, how like there was snow falling on your suit, and as you're walking around, it's coming off, and footprints in the snow and all that type of stuff. And they talked about how it looks like Norman Osborn is going to be the main villain overall in this one. And maybe Peter Parker might get the Carnage symbiote for a bit as well, because the symbiotes are going to play a part into it, according to the leaks. But you can confirm that based off the ending of the last one with Harry Osborn, where it looks like he's going to get the Venom symbiote. So that's still going to be pretty interesting with that. But then they also talked about how Morbius is going to be in the game, which I think makes sense, considering, that's some cross-promotion between the movie. Apparently they wanted to have Daredevil in the PS4 version, but for whatever reason, they just couldn't do it at the time. And there's quite a number of references to him in the game, so they're talking about bringing him in, as well as Fantastic Four, but mostly with a focus on Human Torch as well. So that'd be pretty cool. And Mysterio is going to be one of the main villains as well. But they're also talking a lot about like dynamic side missions, how you'll be just kind of swinging around, and some construction worker will fall off a building, and you have to like swing in and like grab him and all that type of stuff as well.
Do you have the option to just let him die?
If I'm playing, I fucking hope so.
Oh, yeah.
They said that that's to go more of the friendly neighborhood aspect and all that type of stuff. And they were looking to announce it. It was supposed to be announced pretty much around this time, but then the whole Comic-Con started going around, and now they're looking to reveal it around August or maybe a little bit later. But it looks like it's going to be a 2021 release, and it is going to be on PS5. No one is really sure if it's going to be a launch title or not.
That was going to be my next question, if it was going to be a launch title. I think they need to make it a launch title if at all possible, because that's going to, it's such a big, massive title, and that can push so many people to be excited for the launch.
In a perfect world, I would say the launch titles would be that and Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Oh, God, that'd be incredible. I love Horizon Zero Dawn.
What I've been hearing about the PS5 launch, though, is that they are looking to short ship it, so to have not a lot of consoles available at launch, because apparently the price of the PS5 might be significantly higher than most people are expecting. So I think that they might not be pushing to have any major release, must-play type games out for launch, and more release it the way often phones are released, where they're expensive at first, and early adopters can line up at the Apple Store or whatever and buy it if they want. They can run their PS4 games better and get maybe one or two games that are mid-tier to maybe one high-level one, but make it so that their audience doesn't feel like they're forced to adopt the PS5 right away. It's just what I've heard from a PlayStation podcast that I listen to. But
I think that's a good idea.
It might be what ends up happening also, because
supply chains are obviously going to be a little bit weird over the next year. We heard months ago that PlayStation was having trouble finding parts, finding the parts they need at a relatively affordable price, just because supply and demand, and they really, seems to me like PlayStation has kind of goofed a little bit on this. The fact that they're making their machine so much more expensive and somehow less powerful than the Xbox Series X.
It's not looking good for them right now.
But I said, at the end of the day, I'm going to get a PS5. I don't give a shit about the Xbox Series X because I don't care about Xbox exclusive games.
Well, the question is, are you going to pay close to $600, close to $800 for a PS5 right away? And how many years before it drops to a more affordable price where you would get it? And how many people are going to be buying Xbox Series X in the meantime, right? If it is more affordable. It's all speculation right now because we don't know the final prices on either of them. But Sony's got to be careful. And I think that what they should do if they want to put themselves in a better position is have a very consumer focused like live stream where they talk about here's exactly what the product is. Here's what it looks like. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here are the games we're going to have at launch. Otherwise, it might be kind of a strange console launch.
You don't think they need to do another stream like they did that talked directly to people like you?
I was lost on a lot of that stream. That's why, like, guys, I know what kind of talk this is, and I even get like a little bit, I guess, alienated by all the tech talk in them. And I'm one of the people who, as High Ground Masters saying, I get people's brain doing the loading wheel. High Ground Masters comment there. But
yeah,
I mean, like, and I was having trouble even understanding a lot of.
Well, I mean, with Sony has really dominated, their area of the console, wars, pretty much since PS2. I mean, I know that it was pretty even with the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Then the PS4 has just been a juggernaut. And they are in a really good position, but from an optics standpoint, up to this point, it's hard to believe that Xbox has had better PR is surrounding their next system than Sony has. Sony has messed a lot of this up. That doesn't mean it's going to continue that way, but right now, as it stands, it seems to be there is more excitement and momentum for the Xbox, which is shocking to me. Very shocking, considering where the Xbox One is in sales versus where the PS4 is.
Do you think it's more actual excitement, or it's more people just being like, PlayStation's really fucking this up?
That's what it is. It's not people excited about Xbox. It's people that are like, Sony, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. But it can shift. I mean, look, if you go back to, for me, I mean, and maybe you guys have a different perspective, but for me, in the heyday of the Modern Warfares and the Black Ops, for me, Xbox was the king back then. Xbox 360 was the top system. The PlayStation 3 picked up a lot of sales after the fact based on the Blu-ray player being a cheap Blu-ray player. Kind of had the same benefits as the PS2 had when it was the cheapest DVD player. But they were a little ahead of that game, so the PS3 really wasn't the prominent console of that generation. Everybody I played with in all my circles and when I ran tournaments back then, Xbox 360 was the king of the mountain. I mean, did you have that same perspective in that era?
100%,
Absolutely,
100%.
yeah.
I made fun of people at Xbox 360 because I like PS3. So,
all right, well, you were a minority at that point. So yeah, but all of that changed,
bitch.
All of that, normie gamer. I'm not gonna buy it for games. I want it for the Blu-ray.
Normie
player.
Gamer plays Animal Crossing with every woman and child in
the
world.
The number one selling game on the planet. Yes.
Nope. Definition of normie. Definition of normie.
See, here's how Ryan goes. Sales matter unless it doesn't fit my argument.
Correct.
Just like it does with his bad movies. Like he brings up how that movie doesn't follow continuity, and then he likes fucking Batman and Superman. What
comic book continuity? Right, this is a 5-second segue. Comic book continuity when there's literally been a million different iterations of every character.
So then
we can just make Batman a woman at this point. We can make Batman a woman because continuity doesn't matter. Legacy history doesn't matter. Right? Let's just make Superman. Saying. Let's make Superman a black woman with 4 kids. Come on.
From what he said?
Because we literally, you can understand how Batman could become that person if certain things happen.
How on a gaming podcast can I not argue with Mark about Nintendo, but me and you can argue about Snyder?
You notice
you're bringing stupid shit up.
Animal Crossing stuff.
You brought Animal Crossing into it, mother effer.
How is that have to do with Zack Snyder? Release the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, with that being said, before we lose all these viewers,
I want to make my point, but my point was Xbox 360 was the king of the mountain, and everything that happened with that E3 announcement and how they botched everything, it shifted everything in the gaming community, and it shifted all the momentum over to the PlayStation side. And while it's hard to believe that PlayStation could lose their spot, on top of the mountain, it has been proven that you can lose that spot with bad optics. So that's all I'm saying. So as Sony continues to move forward with this PlayStation 5, they have made some serious mistakes from a PR standpoint. And if they continue down that road, And if Xbox can capitalize, that could do another shift in the gaming industry. But again, that's just neither here nor there. That's just an observation.
That's very relevant. And the same thing happened with Xbox One and PS4 this past generation. Most of the reason why Xbox One ended up so far behind, even though the 360 was in the lead, was their initial announced thing was about using your Xbox as like a PVR, the fish technology in Call of Duty Ghosts. And you have to have Kinect. There's no option to get it without Kinect.
Oof.
And also, it's all going to be online. And
always online. Yeah, that was such a bad presentation, man. That was awful.
Said, what about like guys in the military that are like deployed overseas? We like bringing our Xbox 360s over there and playing games with each other. And he's like, well, we've got a product which you can play offline, and it's called an Xbox 360, which is like the most don't buy our new.
Don't you guys have phones? Don't you guys have phones?
Exactly. But so like we're now on a trend though of PS2 being the biggest console in that generation, switching to Xbox in the 360 generation, then switching to PS4. So anyone thinking like, oh no, PlayStation's got this, there's no chance Xbox will take the lead again. Like we're now on a trend of it switching over every generation. So
the 360 generation was and the PS3 was very like right there. I agree with Jeremy that a lot, like some of that was people just buying it because of a Blu-ray player, but at the same time, it was you can say Xbox 361, but it's very close, not compared to PS4, Xbox One, not compared to PS2. You know,
I believe Xbox 360 smashed PlayStation in that era in terms of gamers and gaming, the gaming community aspect. It was massively.
It was the Halo. It was the Halo. Like,
man. But even when you but even when you look at the games that were multi-platform, Call of Duty, I remember people when I mentioned that I had a PlayStation 3 because I had both, and people would just kind of look. It's almost like how people treat the whole Animal Crossing thing right now. They're like, you fucking have it on PS3, bro. Like, no, we're rolling on Xbox. Nobody plays PS3. Nobody plays that bullshit. So I was a fan of the PS3. But I'm just saying how the temperature in the gaming community felt was it was very slanted, very one-sided towards Xbox 360 from my perspective. But, that was just, again, I ran tournaments and everything, so I had a pretty big reach in terms of the people I was interacting with. But that might have just been my perspective on it. So,
yeah. But
no, I agree. I was in high school at the time, and literally everyone in school had an Xbox 360. You were a weirdo if you had a PS3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it was.
And I mean, that's not to say that Xbox Series X is definitely going to be able to beat PS5. It's by no means certain. It could go either way, but I'm thinking that it's just if Sony thinks that they're untouchable at this point, just because of how many exclusives they've had and how much success they've had in the PS4 generation, they've got to be careful because they're not as safe as they think.
There's a lot of. I think it's going to take a lot for Xbox to overtake it because of those exclusives, but there's some factors. There's the fact that there's been bad momentum around the launch and the price. At the end of the day, if this is twice the price of Xbox, it's going to be a problem. And I think Xbox Series X is probably going to be like $450. I think, and that is like the wholesale of the PS5. And I think PS5 is going to get into a situation where they may have to break even on their consoles in order to, and just then rely on game sales.
Chat's a fucking mess. It's all about Lethal stop talking, Lethal start talking. And somebody says, does Jeremy think Star Wars Explained and his sister are PlayStation or Xbox?
God.
They're definitely both playing Animal Crossing, I'll tell you that. No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Oh, God. This chat's hey, over 100 people. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
You guys.
Ryan, they told me I can't talk Nintendo. Yet all they do is take jabs at Nintendo trying to bait me. All right? You see how they operate around here?
Jab at Nintendo.
You see well, your existence is a jab at Nintendo. So.
I own a Switch.
I can't.
Tim Pool speak. This chat's a mess.
Lethal Pool, Tim Pool.
I'm not going to shave the whole quarantine.
There you go. But anyway, kind of get us back on track to Spider-Man. Listen, whether it's a launch title, whether it's a couple months after launch, I think it's going to sell huge. With as good as the PS4 Spider-Man was, it's going to have a lot of goodwill and hype surrounding it. And if all of those people are included, I feel like the last game was pretty full as far as all the different villains and characters you got to interact with and stuff like that. If those leaks, which have recently been taken down, we don't know why they were taken down. Is it because Sony came out and got those leaks taken down? Who knows? But it was some pretty specific information. And if all that stuff's true with all those different characters, I am really looking forward to Spider-Man PS5.
It sounds like an absolute beast of a game. It really, really, really does. If it's true.
Yep, if it's true, time will tell. Time will tell. Yeah, I really do. I'm really liking this panel and this show. So once we get this channel monetized, if that ever happens, I may just move this over to the main channel. So, this is good stuff we got going on. So Ryan does a decent job of hosting when he's not being a bitch. So
yeah, well, I can only take slander for so long against my Lord and Savior before I have to step in. It is Sunday after all. But anyway, what about Mark? Haven't really heard about about Spider-Man PS5, about those leaks?
He doesn't give a fuck. It's a PS4 exclusive.
It's a console game. He doesn't care.
Did you guys not hear me earlier say that I think that Spider-Man PS4 is like the best written Spider-Man story I've ever seen outside of a comic book? Like, I said that on this show today.
No, but notice he says he specifically compliments the writing, so he doesn't have to talk about the game and how it runs on a PS4.
It runs at 30 frames a second and it pisses me off. Okay, I'm actually really hoping that I can replay it on PS5 and it'll actually look good when you turn the camera laterally. It looks fine when you're going straight.
So were you upset about Puddlegate?
No. That was fake news.
Okay.
I love Puddlegate.
Subhuman. Yes, Subhuman 84. We want Mario Galaxy remastered for the Switch. Yes, we do.
I would even like that.
I don't give a shit. Just one more stupid game I get dragged into playing, if I had to imagine. But speaking of fake news, Mark, you looked into a couple things that were going on around a new video game that, if you have watched Twitch lately, everyone that was streaming Valorant was pulling just crazy views. People were really interested in seeing this new game. I don't know if anybody on here has played it. It's still in beta. They're giving out more keys and stuff for people to play, but I haven't played it all. I've just watched people play. But there was some news out there about Valorant that Mark looked into lately. You want to tell us about that?
Okay, so there's been some controversy over the Vanguard anti-cheat software that Valorant has been using, and basically almost every online shooter will have anti-cheat software of some kind. It basically makes it so that you can't hack into the game and give yourself perfect aim or the ability to move faster than everybody else. Essentially just giving yourself superpowers, making yourself invincible. The controversy was over the level of access that the Vanguard anti-cheat software gets to your computer. And it's in what's called the Ring 0 or the kernel layer. So I'm going to try to not get into too much tech talk, mostly because I personally don't understand a lot of it. And I looked into it. Apparently, that level of access is what you give Facebook to your phone. An app like Facebook or Instagram or something to your phone when you do things like, will you allow this program to access your pictures? And when you hit yes on that, you're giving that app access to your kernel layer. So it's a big controversy, and there's been a lot of YouTubers harping on about how, Valorant is spyware, don't install Valorant, you're going to be giving Riot Games access to your whole computer. Yes, that's kind of true, but you're also giving every app that allows you to access one other area of your computer that has to go through the kernel layer. So I'm going to, hopefully everybody in a new tab, in the chat, I'm going to copy a link to a computer programmer explaining it better than I can. If you open that up in a new tab and watch it after this, it will explain it better. But basically, the Valorant controversy is more or less fake news, is what I found out through my research. Because I was almost on board with like, nobody play Valorant. It's gonna like be spyware on your computer. But I researched it and was like, oh, it's actually not that bad. If anything, the Division and like any other multiplayer game you've already played is already the spyware on your computer in the same way.
Yeah, I think the game looks crap.
Yes, Marjade. Wait, Mark doesn't get that tech talk. What world is this? Yeah, it's out there. If Mark doesn't.
Well, I know things about the gaming industry. I'm not a computer programmer though. So.
And I do kind of agree with Lethal. I don't really understand the hype around it. Like it got so much viewership and it dominated Twitch for like the week that it was initially at beta. But I think it looks okay.
It looks like Counter-Strike cross Overwatch, except a crap version of both.
Yeah, and it doesn't really look like that. I really like the style of how it looks. I guess that's a part of it too.
I do, but I think that the reason it's got that kind of art style is because that's an art style that can look good running on low spec computers and running well. And that's true. Like with competitive shooters like that, performance is a big thing. It's one of the reasons why Counter-Strike stuck around in like the sort of budding esports scene back in the day for as long as it did. It was essentially a game from 1997, 1998, but stuck around for like 20 years essentially until Counter-Strike Go came out not too long ago. But yeah, I think that Valorant's probably going to be pretty big. It's free to play, so a lot of people will be able to chime in and play it, even if they're not super interested in it. And Riot in general is making a big push to kind of take over every genre. They just bought a new company that was making kind of a Minecraft mod. So they bought those mod guys away from Microsoft, and they're making basically what's going to be Riot Games' Minecraft Killer. They've got a card battle game coming out that's probably going to be going after Hearthstone. The Valorant's their first-person shooter. They've also got a fighting game in the works. So Riot is making a big push to become a much bigger company than they are right now.
There you go.
Yeah, I've looked into this a little bit, but it's not really my cup of tea, so I can't really give an informed opinion on it. So
you didn't watch Pokimane over on Twitch?
No, I've never watched. I've never watched her.
She was playing a game.
Yeah,
yes. The only time I see Pokimane or Boomer Girl is when Lethal is responding to their tweets. So,
Tim Pool trying to slide in the DMs.
Maybe I should start telling people I am.
Just start selling, you know what you should do, Lethal? You should start like Tim Pool. You should start selling those. You should tell everybody at the world's ending and selling those like buckets of like mixed meal, like pre-made meals that'll last you like 80 years or something, like preppers. Just start hawking those on your channel. Maybe YouTube won't take down every stream you do now.
Hey, again, thanks to everybody. We've got 96 likes. We got 100 watching. So smash the melee button. Thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate this. This was an idea that these three guys came up with, and it's clear that you guys are enjoying this. So, we're definitely going to try to get this scheduled out every week. But I think we've had a really good show so far. So thank you all for the support.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of what we're going to do is just wrap up some of the things that we found somewhat relevant in gaming, over the past week or so, whether we've made a video about it on the channel, but just to kind of get everyone's different opinions. And speaking of two different opinions, Resident Evil 3, the Resident Evil 3 remake came out now, it seems like forever ago now. But, two guys on this panel I know played. I don't know if Jeremy played it or not. I did.
I was not even a big fan of the original Resident Evil 3. So I haven't played the updated one.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of controversy around this one, though.
There has. And, whether it's, some people were upset about Jill Valentine's look in it, thinking that it was maybe a little desexualized. I thought that was maybe a little blown out of proportion, but I think one thing that at least Mark and Lethal can agree on is the fact that it's a pretty short game. Both of you guys had sub 5-hour run times, and it's not like you were trying to speed run or anything. You guys were just playing through the game. So 4 hours, 45 minutes for a game seems a little low to me when you're paying $60. But Mark, why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts about the game?
Well, my long form thoughts are already in the review on my channel, so I'll just give like a quick little rundown. Basically, I think it's a very good game from like a moment to moment gameplay perspective. From a design perspective, I think it's quite good. I think the shooting mechanics are a lot better than they even were in Resident Evil 2. I like the dodge ability. There's a lot of additions to the game over the Resident Evil 2 remake that I think are really good, and the game plays great. That being said, it's not worth full price right now. Like there's not enough content there for me to recommend that you spend 60 American dollars, or for us it's 80 Canadian dollars to play the game now, when it will probably be on sale for like 30 to 40 within a few months, which I think is a much more reasonable price for that game. I am not as negative on the game as Lethal, because I think the game that is there is good. I just don't think there's enough content in it to really justify a full price.
All right, what about you, Lethal?
Trash, straight up trash. What they charge for it is
Lethal.
it's so short.
Yeah, you're having some connection issues, Lethal.
I win.
Right, try again, Lethal. You're good now.
You may need to leave and come back.
Yeah, it's good now.
Well, I thought that it was just so ridiculously short. The dodge system was broken. Once you learned how to dodge, you were practically invincible. The Nemesis fight scenes were scripted as fuck. There was never really an intimidating factor once you figured out he can only pop up in certain locations. The last boss fight, all you have to do is turn around, press X, and you pretty much won. The game started to get good, and then it just ended. It just ended. The best part of the game is you're running around the city, but you're only in the city for the first section of the game. I didn't really... fuck that game.
I like the final boss fight. I didn't think it was that easy.
Now, Lethal, is your issue the game itself, or the remaster or the remake or whatever? Like, did you like Resident Evil 3 originally?
I didn't play it enough to have too much of a thought on it.
Okay.
I did like it, and there definitely is things cut out. That is also a bit of a downside. Like they did cut a few corners on how they remade the game. But I still like, ultimately I had a fun time while I was playing it, and I think the game does play quite well. I just think it's got some content lacking issues, and I definitely agree with the Lethal though. The Nemesis is a real step back from Mr. X in the Resident Evil 2 remake. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, in the Resident Evil 2 remake, there's a Tyrant, which is like a big, strong, Incredible Hulk type bioweapon that is hunting you through the entire game. And it's dynamic from a gameplay perspective. So he's always walking around the police station, and you can run into him at any time. It would make sense for them to do Nemesis the same way, because Tyrant and Nemesis are essentially the same concept in the original games, but it isn't. It is the way Lethal said, where there's scripted moments where you run into Nemesis. Sometimes they make it seem like it's almost a dynamic thing where you just kind of run into him. Other times it's like you run into him in a burning building. There's one straight path that you have to run down and a couple ladders you have to climb, and you just need to follow that path to get away from him. So they went with a much more almost Call of Duty style, here's your big scripted action sequence moment, aside from making it so that you're wandering around Raccoon City and you're never safe, because at any moment Nemesis could be around the corner. The only thing you have to warn yourself is his footstep sounds. They did not do it that way, which is a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, if it was more like Alien Isolation, where it could just pop up at any moment, and you could reload the save and maybe he won't be there that time. But instead, it's just, here he is.
Yeah, I mean, with not to speak on directly on this version because I haven't played it, but I mean, the reason I even like with Resident Evil 1 is one of my favorite games ever. And then 2, I enjoyed back in the day, but then 3, I was at a point where I was tired of the Resident Evil formula, and that's why when 4 eventually came out and they changed everything up, which 4 is also one of my favorite games ever. But yeah. So that's why I just didn't have interest in even playing this one, because I really wasn't a big fan of it back in the day. So
save your money.
And speaking of Resident Evil 4, that they've already basically come out and said that Resident Evil's the next one that is going to be remastered. And that one could be interesting because kind of like you said, Jeremy, Resident Evil 4 is where it departs from that traditional Resident Evil, like everything's very slow and kind of like horror based. Resident Evil 4 is very like, I feel like that's more of a modern game in a way. It was like its first step towards that. Where
in a way,
everything's fast.
It was the first modern third-person shooter, really, in a lot of ways. The first over-the-shoulder kind of zoom in right behind them when you aim thing. Like it, Gears of War would never have happened if it weren't for Resident Evil 4. And if like Gears of War didn't happen, then you probably wouldn't have games like The Division. You probably wouldn't have stuff like Uncharted even, or at least they would play differently in the way they handle their shooting mechanics. Yeah. I've recently played a fair amount of Resident Evil 4, just getting footage together for both the Resident Evil 3 remake remake review that I did, and also the Resident Evil 8 rumor story that I did about a week ago, the little short news video. Resident Evil 4 plays kind of rough now. Like the controls don't hold up very well. It's still, I think, a very good game, and it looks quite good. But everyone, I think, saying like, oh, they should never touch Resident Evil 4 because it's perfect. Like, go back and play it. It could use a touch-up. I just hope they don't change too much because I think it is one of the best games ever made. It could just use a few updates for like, the visuals could be cleaned up a bit and the controls. And I hope they put in the right amount of effort and don't try to alter too much stuff and turn it into a different game.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they really are. I think that could be interesting because there's a couple Resident Evil rumors out there. The one that's essentially confirmed is that the Resident Evil 4 remake is going to happen. But the Resident Evil 8 Village leaks, both Lethal and Mark talked about this a little bit. And if those things are both true, and you think of the setup, like the village, like kind of in the mountains setup that Resident Evil 4 is based in, they could use a lot of the same building blocks for both of those games. So I'll be interested to see if they use any of the same designs or any of that. What am I trying to say? Basically the frames and everything that goes into development of the environment of the game for both Resident Evil 4 remake and Resident Evil 8. Which one of those would you guys be more excited about? Resident Evil 8 or 4 remake?
4 remake for me.
It depends on what 8 ends up looking like. I really loved Resident Evil 7. I thought Resident Evil 7 was, up until last month, Resident Evil 7 was my favorite VR game that I'd ever played. Half-Life Alyx has since kind of taken that crown, but Resident Evil 7 in VR, like playing on PlayStation VR, was nuts. And I really liked the first-person perspective. I thought it made things a lot more scary. But I don't know, because we don't really know anything about Village other than its basic premise and some leaks that may or may not be true. But I just saw someone mention Code Veronica there. That's actually the thing I'm most disappointed about, that it seems like they're skipping over Code Veronica, which was the real Resident Evil 3.
Yep. I had that game back on. That was on a Dreamcast as well, right?
Yeah, it was a Dreamcast. It was a Dreamcast exclusive before they eventually
had put it on. Yeah,
is that it kind of
like Resident Evil 4? Like that was a GameCube exclusive, and then they've put it on everything since.
Yeah,
so it's kind of.
So. Resident Evil 4 is why I bought a GameCube.
Yeah, that was that game was so great. That game was so great. But I think I would take 4 simply, but I want it to be a complete remaster, not a remake. I don't want a remake. I want a remaster. You just need to touch things up on that. You don't need to change anything. You just need to update, make it crisp, make it run at the frame rate that is acceptable for Mark the Cyborg.
Oh no, the frame rate for the original Resident Evil 4 is fine these days. It runs great.
So but I'm all about 4. I would love to see 4 properly remastered.
I'm kind of leaning 8. The idea of something new, and plus the fact 3 left such a bad taste in my mouth as well.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things that was interesting. Basically, at the start of this stream, Jeremy, that you said was you really want more remakes of like classic games and stuff. And
well, misspoke. Or what remasters is what I want, not remakes. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But basically, just the same game that you had, 15 or 20 years ago, just a little bit updated.
Right.
And I think that's so interesting because I made a video talking about, I don't remember if it was Resident Evil 3 or what, but I said that's. And as I was just like making the video, I said, it seems like a common theme in entertainment in general these days, whether we're talking about TV shows, movies, video games, that, we're just kind of remaking things. We're using that same premise and just updating a little bit, putting a little bit different spin on it. But it seems like creativity in some ways is really lacking in a lot in the entertainment industry. So I was interested to hear you say that you want to see more of that. To me, I'm kind of with Lethal, where I want something like new and different, even if there's a chance that it's shit, I suppose. But that's kind of
the reason is, and yes, a Dino Crisis remake or remaster would be fantastic. I love Dino Crisis and Ironcaster. Yes, we're allowed to talk Nintendo. It's a joke, it's a joke. It's all, obviously I'm the biggest Nintendo fan on the planet. So, but we don't really have any Nintendo stuff to talk about. So
mods ban anyone talking about Nintendo.
But my whole thing about it is look back at some of the games. It's like Mark mentioned about Resident Evil 4, and yes, back when it released, no, there's nothing you can do to touch that game. It was perfect at the time, but time is not kind to all games. So like something like even Mario 64 for the N64, one of the greatest games ever made. You play it now, it's very dated, so if that was ever remastered, it would be amazing. So much like with Resident Evil 4, games like that, I would just like to see them remastered, not remade, for this generation, so they can be crisp, clean up some of maybe the control issues. Don't change anything. Don't change any of the characters. Don't change any of the plots to be, PC ready for 2020 or any bullshit like that. I just want to see them remastered and updated to run smoother, because a lot of these games that we love, mainly in that like 64-bit era or maybe the PlayStation, those games, some of them are very dated. They really are. Go back and play Shadows of the Empire, you know what I mean, on N64. It's very dated. We all loved that game.
That was rough.
Yeah, I mean, we all loved that game so much, but it's pretty clunky. It's really clunky now. So that's really my stance on it, is I just want to experience those games now, because we are in a time where, I'll go back and play old games that I used to play back in the day that were very difficult, and I can't fucking play them for shit, because I feel gaming has kind of been dumbed down a lot nowadays, in terms of some of the things that we do. So the same aspect of that, you go back and play those games, and we've kind of been ruined in terms of we can't appreciate those old games because they run really bad now compared to how great some of the stuff runs today and how crisp and fluid the graphics are. So that's my standpoint on it.
Yeah. All right, then with, for example, like Final Fantasy VII, the fact it's a remake and not a remaster, and even though it's, like you said, like it's getting a lot of praise across the board, the fact that it's a remake, does that actually turn you off it?
It does. Because when you start talking about remake, and again, I hadn't played the game, and so when I talked about it, I wasn't under the assumption it was more so a remaster but a lot has changed in that. When you start opening the door to that's a different dynamic for me. Now, again, I don't worry about it in respect to Nintendo per se, because they're not going to change anything. But when we're talking about these other games with third-party developers and things like that, when you start remastered and you start opening the door, what's the problem with Jill Valentine? I guess they've changed her look to make her...
Well, the model is different. My biggest problem, actually, is that it's no longer the Canadian model, Julia Voth, who's the face for Jill, so she looks totally different. But the controversy from a PC perspective, not PC as in personal computer, like political correctness perspective, was I realized that it was me talking, so I had to actually clarify that. Was that she's no longer wearing a tube top and a mini skirt with like the sweater wrapped around her. She's wearing what's basically the Tomb Raider 2013 outfit. She's wearing like a double layered tank top and jeans. And I didn't play it that way. I played it actually with the classic costumes that you could get if you pre-ordered it. And they look fine. I still wish that she looked like Julia Voth instead of this Russian model, but the Russian model is pretty cute too. So
the skirt's been changed to a skirt.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the review too.
The sky is falling.
I wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for I think it was a Phantom Menace person on Twitter that like pointed that out, and I was like, oh man, I wouldn't even have ever seen that. I realized the reason for that might have been the model viewer mode, where like you can go in the menu and like kind of turn the model around and look at it from different directions. I'm like, oh, they didn't want you to be able to look up her skirt, so she's wearing shorts.
Oppressive.
Yeah, so that's what worries me though when you get into remakes and you start changing things. I mean, I'm surprised we still have Kratos, in some like with the remasters of like with the remastered of God of War 3. I'm surprised Kratos is still actually Kratos. Even though it was several years ago. But that's what I worry about is PC politically correct. Changing these games from that perspective. That does worry me. So Lethal, definitely a fair point with how many changes they have made to Final Fantasy VII.
TV groups are still glorious.
So
Yeah, they are. They are. I think that
Lethal with the important stuff. That's what we cover here at Game with Geeks. The important aspect. Boobs.
I think that it's interesting for Resident Evil because there's Tifa right there. As Lethal continuously publicly simps for Tifa. It's the way that Resident Evil's doing it right now. They're essentially planning on doing one remake and then a new game a year, right? And with things in between that. So I think you're going to see Resident Evil 8 out next and then a Resident Evil 4 between that and then something else. I think that's a unique way to do it. You can have these remakes or remasters that are probably fairly low effort from like a creativity standpoint, and you're just mostly focused on updating things, and then you can actually put more of your creativity and fund your new projects. I think it's kind of interesting so that everybody gets a little bit of something they want. From the Resident Evil franchise.
That's actually something I was going to bring up, that I get the impression that the Resident Evil 3 remake, being a full price game and not a DLC, was almost like a Kickstarter for Resident Evil 8. I think they might have just wanted to generate some money. But
then keep in mind, Modern Warfare released a remastered Modern Warfare 2 campaign where you just buy it and download it onto the disc.
Yeah, it was $20, which is more reasonable, but I hear that they did not really do much to it. From what I hear, is if you play the Xbox 360 version on an Xbox One, you're essentially playing the exact same thing as if you're playing the remastered version on a PS4 right now. So I haven't played it, so I can't really say, but I hear that they didn't do much to Modern Warfare 2, that it's pretty much just the exact same thing. Ackman has a good video on it.
But they didn't charge you full price like they did for
no. And that's the thing. But also, Activision and Call of Duty have they've got a bit more money than Capcom does. Capcom probably has to do more to generate new funds. I'm not defending it either. My big underlying thing in my review for Resident Evil 3 was don't buy this game now. Wait till it goes on sale. But I think that there's a possibility that's the reason why it came out so fast. That's the reason why so many corners were cut. And that is probably the reason why they shoehorned in a multiplayer mode that nobody's playing either.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. Other than there's a multiplayer mode, but I don't know anything about the actual gameplay behind it. But either way, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 8. And I guess Resident Evil 4, depending on the price point. That could be awesome. If they update it, because that game, the way that game does play, and like you guys said, it was kind of so revolutionary and really forged the path forward. I think that just keeping that same basic gameplay could be really awesome. So I'm looking forward to both of them. But we have been going about an hour here. Were there any other topics you guys wanted to talk about or cover?
No, I think we've definitely, not for me, if there's anything else anybody else to bring up, that's fine. But yeah, we plan on going for about an hour and 20 minutes. We do have the Mario Kart 8 stream tonight over on Twitch. So, you guys definitely tune in there. One thing before when we end, I think we should kind of just talk about a couple of games, that we've been playing, because we're going to get different from across the board. That way people can hear, our perspectives on things. So Mark will give you 7 PC games you've never heard of, but yeah, I really have enjoyed this podcast. I think everybody's enjoyed it here. 125 viewers. This is a great idea from these guys. And, we're going to try to make this a consistent weekly thing. We have been throwing some ideas around about names, about what we're going to call it. So we haven't hammered anything down yet. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. Now, as far as this channel goes, we are still trying to get it monetized. We had an issue. Again, I don't think I told you guys this, but I even tried to talk to my YouTube contact through the main channel, and they were just they won't talk to me about this channel. You know, I'm like, it's a brand account. It's part of this main channel, but they just won't talk to me about the monetization issues. So we're still working on that. So we just need watch time. The more watch time we get, the better it's going to put us in a position to make that happen. But yeah, I'm good. So.
All right. Well, let's start with Mark. What games have you been playing, Mark?
I have over the last couple weeks in my spare time, because I wasn't really planning on making videos on these games that I've been playing, or like these specific ones. Been playing, mentioned it a bit earlier, Japanese role-playing game series called Trails in the Sky. Many people might have heard of Trails of Cold Steel, which is a series that's been releasing on PS4 over the last year. I think they've been being imported from Japan. But I started playing Trails of Cold Steel, but then watched a video saying that basically this series is actually like 9 games long and started on the PSP in like the early 2000s. And I found that the Trails in the Sky series, which is the first trilogy, was the initial one, and that it's really worth playing. So I kind of just started playing it casually, like for an hour or two before I went to bed. The story hooked me so hard, though, that I've now gone through like 2 full JRPGs in like the last 2 weeks. And they're really incredible. Appabend actually just like yesterday made a really good video on them. So I'll find that video and throw it in the comments. Basically, it's like kind of a Marvel Cinematic Universe of like 3 separate storylines that are all kind of converging right now in the latest Trails of Cold Steel game. So apparently Trails of Cold Steel is like the Infinity War of this Legend of Heroes series, and Trails of Cold Steel 4 is the end game. So I'm kind of trying to catch up on that series.
So it's trash.
I mean, no, I wouldn't say so, but yeah, that's what I've been playing when I'm not like playing Half-Life on the Gaming with Geeks Twitch. And I played through Titanfall 2 again, which doesn't take very long, but it's also very good. And working on a video for that as well.
So good. So good.
Nice. What about you, Lethal?
I have been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've also been putting in a lot of hours into Neo 2, my first ever Souls-esque game that I've ever played in my life. And I love it. I love it. I've gotten good. It took me a while, but I got good. And I'm going to get a lot of shit for this. But I've been playing Gwent on my phone.
How the hell are you going to say anything to me about Nintendo? You're going to pull out fucking mobile gaming.
No. It's a CD Projekt Red mobile game.
I don't care. You can't play anything on mobile. I don't even play Nintendo games on my phone. I didn't play Super Mario Run. I didn't download Mario Kart Tour. No.
I did play Super Mario Run. I have not.
But I believe you.
I did. I seriously, I swear, I did not play Super Mario Run or Mario Kart Tour. I never played either one of them. Never even tried them.
No Gwent content on the Witcher TV show is the biggest break from canon of all. At no point did Henry Cavill just stop what he was doing and be like, "Hey, you want to play some Gwent?"
It's really good when you're lying in bed and you're like, I'll just play a quick round of cards. Send a message to the player.
Or you can just have your Nintendo Switch and do the same thing. So
no,
I haven't offered to buy Lethal a Switch, by the way. So
he did a few times actually.
And you're just like, nah, not worth it, mate.
Not worth it, mate.
What about you, Jeremy? What have you been playing?
Animal Crossing, mother effers. But yes, I have been playing Animal Crossing outside of the obvious because I always play Titanfall 2 and I'm always playing Mario Kart, which I don't even play Mario Kart that much unless we're streaming it. But Titanfall 2 is just my go-to game where I just play, it's so fast paced. It's so easy to jump into a game. You just go into attrition, you play it. Love Titanfall 2. We streamed Titanfall 2, about a week and a half ago? Wasn't it on Twitch?
I think 8 days ago. 8 days ago.
And I would love for us to do that more. I mean, Titanfall 2, I know we turned a few people on to Titanfall that had never played it. I know like Herschel's Leg played it. Now, have you never played Titanfall 2?
Never.
Lethal? Really?
That was his first game. And
you need to play the campaign, dude. Yeah. It's such a good campaign.
I've been playing a bit of multiplayer here and there.
Yeah, the multiplayer to me is the best multiplayer for a first-person shooter I've ever played. Just from a gameplay mechanics, from the level design, from the dynamic between the Titan and the pilot. I love it. I'll never stop loving Titanfall. I love it so much. But yes, Animal Crossing is awesome. I don't give a damn what any of these dudes say. And Doom, I've still been playing Doom. Doom is awesome. Doom is really straightforward. If you play Doom, you understand Doom. There's not a lot of story there. It's all about just killing and ripping people's eyeballs out, and it's awesome. And I'm really, really happy with Doom Eternal. So yeah, that's what I've been playing lately.
There you go. Well, for myself, literally the only time I play video games is on stream. I just don't play them when I'm not, just because I don't really have too much time. But so I've been playing. I've been going all through the Arkham series. So I started with Arkham Asylum, played Arkham City. Now I'm playing Arkham Knight. And it is so freaking good. I wish there wasn't as much damn Batmobile stuff. But as far as the story and the mechanics of that game, I absolutely love Arkham Knight. I wonder who the Arkham Knight is. They kind of give that away pretty easy. But other than that, it's awesome. I've been playing Jedi Academy. So Jedi Knight 3 Jedi Academy was recently ported to PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. So I've been playing that a lot. And there's also a multiplayer, like an online multiplayer that's pretty awesome that I haven't tried that out yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that in the future. An old, 2003, it was originally released, the heyday of LucasArts, back when we had, several releases a year. You were getting games like Bounty Hunter, KOTOR 2, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Academy, Empire at War, all different kinds of games, whether it's on PC or console. And that's just not the way it is anymore with Star Wars, because EA holds all the cards. Yeah, EA holds all the cards, and they only make one a year, basically. So yeah, it kind of sucks. Patrick Bateman just says "soy boys." Soy boys. I don't know why. If you're talking us, go fuck yourself. If not, then it's funny. But yeah, that's basically what I've been playing, and a little bit of Modern Warfare. Maybe like 1 or 2 missions to kill some shit before bed, or 1 or 2 matches.
I have been playing. I'm playing through Super Mario Galaxy again because I'm excited about that remaster rumor. One of the greatest games ever. Might be my favorite Mario game ever. Especially this playthrough it's made me really just appreciate it again. So we'll see what happens. Parker Hobbs. I love that we have this Parker Hobbs account. It's so good. I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think this Parker Hops person could be the the person that was running the Leia account. I don't know though. This Parker Hops person is really on point. If you don't know about Parker Hops, that's a little baby bunny I found in my backyard with a broken leg, and I was going to keep it, but then I was informed that it's illegal to keep wildlife. So I took it to a wildlife, center, and they're going to heal it. But Parker Hops is the character for our Park Hopping channel, for our mascot over there. So yeah, I love that we have all of this Geeks and Gamers lore, no matter what we do. It's so good. So
yeah, you're lucky Jeremy found you. If I'd found you, Parker, swift boot to the head, put you out of your misery, throw you over the fence probably. But yeah, on that note, I think we're going to get going here. Make sure to check out everybody's channel. Mark the Cyborg doing stuff on his channel and on the Twitch channel. Obviously, if you don't follow us over on Twitch, we're doing a lot of stuff over on Gaming with Geeks, as well as I'm doing a lot of stuff on Twitch. Lethal's doing a lot of stuff on Twitch as well. And Krista is on Twitch right now, actually. And that's where we're going to send you when we're done here. I've already got the link ready to go. Oh, look at this. He lies. He'd rather play Animal Crossing than to play with a real animal.
Good stuff.
But we'll figure out what time we're doing this.
High Ground Master says Jeremy cried when he left Parker Hops. No, I cried because your mom's teeth touched for the first time in months. Okay, and it hurt a little bit. Tell her she has not been practicing much lately. So,
damn.
High Ground Master deserves that.
High Ground Master asks for a lot.
Talks a lot of shit. He talks a lot of shit.
He does. There you go. But we are going to get going, guys. Thanks so much for being here. We had a great crowd, a great start of this podcast. Whatever we're going to call it, we'll probably retitle this to episode 1. But we will talk to you guys later. Make sure you go to this. Go raid Krista. tell her that you got sent here from Gaming with Geese. I'm sure she will really like that.
Oh yes, gaming with Geese. That will make her very happy.
Now, go watch her murder some people over there.
What is she playing? She's playing
Doom.
Okay.
Yeah. She's playing Doom. But Geeks Plus podcast, maybe. But, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you later and tonight on Mario Kart. Yay. Bye.